I don't remember the year 2012. And I don't mean in a kind of, oh, I have no idea what happened there, or I have trouble placing the events. My memories of 2012 are incredibly scrambled, and I know exactly why that is. So, in retrospect, what happened was not unexpected, because I've been showing signs of it all my life. But in 2012, during my second year of my undergraduate degree, and leading into the third, I developed severe health anxiety. So I regularly would spend all night panicking, convinced that I was going to die of a heart attack. I went to the A&E at the hospital near my house, which was within walking distance, so much they actually sent me a letter saying stop turning up, this is getting to be a problem, you're fine. It's all in your head, and we mean that in the most medically diagnostic way we can. During this, although there was kind of a downward spiral through most of the year, this really caught up during the summer, when, unfortunately, I was actually doing a kind of internship thing with one of the astronomy professors over the summer. And yeah, I did not finish that. I barely remember what I did. I nearly had to retake most of my exams that year. I basically scraped the pass. I had to drop out of a master's program. Honestly, the weirdest thing for me about that time period is just that, like I said, I don't remember anything because I was constantly having these panic attacks. I was constantly, trying to work out what... I was constantly having this adrenaline rushing around my head, and it screws you over. It makes it really hard to link in. Like, the best way to describe it would be, I feel like I've read the Wikipedia article for my own life. I have a rough idea of events that occurred, but any kind of detail are just gone. Like, I went to group therapy, I barely remember that. It did seem to help, but I barely remember it. My parents took me away to France because we had the kind of annual holiday that we go on as a family, which they said helped, and other people around me said helped. But again, like, all I thought I remembered from that time was one, looking up where the French ambulance is nearby, or like how to get to the nearest French hospital. And two, one of my parents saying, when I came out of the sea, the Grand Plage, which is this big surfing beach, and it's a proper kind of 3 meter tall wave type surfing beach, and I came out with another panic attack, thinking that I was, dying of a heart attack, and my parents just looked at me, pointed at the sea, and said, if you're doing what you've been doing all morning in the sea, you're probably fine. I thought it was my dad who said that to me. Turns out it was actually my mum. Like, that's the level of I don't remember what happened that I've got going on there. So that was anxiety, and like I said, I've had it for a while. Probably had it all my life. So when I was younger, I would lie in bed looking up at the ceiling, and you know how you get you see kind of shapes on the ceiling. I read that as smoke, and I was constantly afraid that the house was going to burn down, that there was a fire. just constantly scared of that. Um, the running joke in my family was we had this fire safety at my school when I was little, which had the fire fairy, which had the line, matches, matches, never touch, they can hurt you very much. And apparently this worked too well on me because, wow, I went pretty crazy. So yeah, the funniest thing about the whole 2012 thing is that I I learned Python, the programming language, over the time period. I don't remember how I learned it. Like, which makes it really problem because now I'm doing a PhD and I am helping to teach Python. You know, sometimes people ask me for help with Python, and they ask me how I learned it, and I'm just like, I have no idea. I know how to do it. I know Python. Don't know how I got to a point where I know it. So yeah, that was 2012. So jumping ahead a bit to 2013/2014, I started doing my master's program. This wasn't one that I had to drop out of because of my marks, because of the problems in my undergrad. I moved from astrophysics into meteorology and climatology. And basically there, I was still at the same university, you know, I still have the same doctor, and I started feeling like I had no motivation or energy, and even though I knew and wanted to do things, just not being able to bring myself to. She marked this as depression. I got through, I got some treatment, kind of like a bit of therapy, and I got through my master's year. And then I basically took a year off, and that really helped. I'm now doing a PhD, which is a very intensive kind of format. Obviously that's, if you already got mental health problems, that's not a good situation. And that kind of built up, and it got to a state, it kind of came to a head last year in August/November, when I was supposed to go on a study trip to the University of Cape Town in South Africa, looking at the subpolar looking at some stuff in the ocean. And I got there and I basically had a breakdown. I did not leave my flat for days, I wasn't eating properly, I barely got any work done, and it all just became such a mess. And I talked to the guy I was supposed to be working with, and he said, well, if you can't do it, then you shouldn't be here. And so, unfortunately, I had to cancel that trip, and I think it was a combination. I was able to hold it together when I was back in the UK because, I had my support structure, I knew everything that was going on, but then not having this massive disconnect between my support structures, not having immediate, knowing where all the medical stuff was, trying to fit into a new country, doing work, it all just got too much, and I came back early. It was a 3-month trip. I ended up doing a month and a half to 2 months. So I am currently on antidepressants. I take 20 milligrams of citalopram a day, which seems to be working really well. Even with that, I still have bad days. I have days, or like multi-days in a row, where I find it difficult to leave my flat, and that's a big thing for me. Kind of getting out. It's easier for me to hide. I try to leave when I can, but often if I leave, I don't have a social energy to go to uni. Luckily, I'm a PhD student, so obviously I have a lot of flexibility. Well, not obviously if you don't know how PhD works, but I have a lot of flexibility in how I work. So usually I will either work from home or I'll go out with my laptop and I'll work somewhere else. Obviously, not everyone's as lucky as me to be able to do that. So that's kind of a brief history of when I've had my mental illnesses. Depression is one of those things where there is a lot of there's a lot of metaphors that people use for it. My particular one is it kind of switches depending on how I feel, but both are weather related. Quite a lot of them are, in fact. So one is sunshine. I'm very sensitive to heat. I don't operate well in heat. And depression often feels like that kind of beating, oppressive sun, which makes everything really hard to do, and you can't think properly while you're in it. The other one is snow, and the same effect. Everything being blanketed down and trapped. Other people, so people in the chat, I know people use lakes or the ocean, or shadows and stuff like that. So yes, so that's kind of where I'm coming from with this game.
Hello.
Hey, yeah.
My thing just finished, so I'm hopping in the voice chat.
Cool. So today I will have two kind of co-stars. One is Packbat, who just joined here, and one is Amy / Bifuriousa, who is currently muted.
Hello.
Yep. So they will be talking about the game with me when I start playing it. I'm just going to give a brief background on the game. So Depression Quest came out in 2014 and was mainly written by one person, Zoe Quinn, in using the Twine game system. So if you know a bit about internet culture history, the words Zoe Quinn in 2014 should make you go, wait, oh dear. And yes, it was during that period. We're not going to mention anything else about that. Later on, I think Patrick Lindsay and Isaac Shankler, you can see all of their names in the sidebar to the left, came on. So Depression Quest is, in terms of game mechanics, it's kind of a game stripped down to its very simplest components. It's entirely a text-based game, very simple. In fact, I really like the program that was made in Twine, which is just a really solid, easy to use way of making interactive text-based media. So, it's a very simple game. Effectively, you are playing the life of someone with depression, and options are available and not available to you depending on how your depression happens to be doing. It sounds very simple. There's a lot of variables that are hidden from you, just like there are in real life with depression. And essentially, the aim of the game is you win by having as good a life as possible, managing your depression. If I had to put this game in time like a ranking system, this would be in one of my top 5 games. It was, on a personal level, as well as the link to mental health, it was also one of the games that first made me think about how games can be used, and we'll get into that when we see the playstyle. So yeah, that's Depression Quest. That's my history of mental illness just before it. And now do either of my co-hosts have anything they want to add, either with their own history of depression and mental illnesses, or anything about the game, or anything else. And also introductions, I guess, are a good thing for you guys to do.
I could go next, I guess.
Yep.
So, just before I got the knock on the door that I had to deal with, Heart of Aquamarine was talking about depression metaphors and mental health metaphors, and I just, as a throwaway comment, like one of the ones that I've been using sometimes for certain kinds of mental states is noise. Is like if you're on a bus, then you really don't pay attention to the sound of the engine and the sound of the road, but it's there and it's pervading everything, and it's going to get in the way of some things that you might otherwise want to do, and it's not pleasant if you're ignoring it. It's still there, and it's still not what you choose. With respect to Depression Quest, it's it's a game that I think crystallized to me what depression was, and also kind of connected that to my own experience. Like, I was in therapy because I was having trouble with grad school, and I played Depression Quest one day. I think it was in like a Humble Bundle. It's free online, but it was the featured game in a bundle, and I actually had somehow missed the fact that it was free online, so I was like, ooh, I wanted to play that game. And then I went to the next therapy session I went to, I was like, so I might be depressed. I think a major contributor to my depression was untreated gender dysphoria. I'm trans. I didn't know it at the time. Figuring out I was trans was a pretty major factor in becoming less depressed for me. Acknowledging that, but like having a coherent concept of depression and not like, I don't even know that I had a concept at all before I played Depression Quest. Like I had the being down kind of idea of depression, which is barely an idea. So it is, I think, a very good illustration of how games as education can work, and that was how I responded to it.
Oh yes, I should note that. So I just need to double check, but the game was slated for release basically around the same time that Robbie Williams committed suicide from depression. Well, specifically, it was first released as a web browser game in 2013, but later on in 2014, in August, it was released on Steam, and the day it was due to go live, Robbie Williams' suicide came up, and Joey Quinn decided to make the game free on Steam. because for that.
Yeah.
It is so you can basically do a pay what you want style thing, which is and some of that will go to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline in the US. I also just note I was slightly wrong. Isaac did the soundtrack, and Quinn and Patrick Lindsay did the writing, with Quinn doing the programming. It is not a game for entertainment. Like, it is very much a educational game, not a entertainment game. Which is why, we're doing this we're doing the stream for everyone to watch.
Some fine entertainment.
So the main reason Hood has just noticed, just a technical thing, that the Depression Quest music has gone a lot louder. That's basically because of the way the streaming software handles talking, because my two co-hosts are talking to me through Discord, which means they're being picked up by the desktop audio, not the mic audio. So I had to turn up the desktop audio to make sure they were audible, which in return turned up the Depression Quest background music, which I've hoped I turned down. So that's just a note about sound. Sound is the hardest part of streaming, and you are just a quick hint if you want to do any kind of streaming. Sound is terrible. Don't have sound in your streams. Just have it be a silent voice.
Just me. No game audio.
No, the best way of doing it is not even you. It's just someone playing the video of a game in silence.
Well, there is a market for that. I'm not against that type of stream existing.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate organizing sound. I don't understand inputs and outputs.
Anyway.
I do want to mention, I see First Napkin pointed to Hyperbole and a Half, the Adventures in Depression and Depression Part 2 posts. Those are also, like, very good posts about depression, although different than what I experienced. I guess more severe, but very good posts and informative.
Yeah, I actually have the book, which came out of those blogs, and it's very good.
So one of the reasons why I decided to start this stream of a kind of monologue explaining my experiences is that depression. So there's a common thing that the reason that you won't cure the common cold is that there's actually like 50 different viruses. Well, far more than that. There's like 5,000 plus different viruses that actually cause common cold, and you can't cure all of them. And it's they all have these very similar effects on the body. Depression is kind of similar in that there's as many ways to be depressed as there are people with depression. Which is why I want to start with my own experience. And one of the things Depression Quest does is that it has I think it actually has quite a broad kind of depiction of depression, of like the symptoms of depression that your character goes through. Like, a lot of people with depression that I know tend to have like what they can point to as kind of the big symptoms for them. The other thing is, just why I mention it, so if you do have depression and I think you're going on meds, be aware that people respond very differently to different meds. So the med that I'm taking, citalopram, I know someone who that makes them hallucinate, and so it can be a bit of a right. We're going to find a medicine that works on you. It's just we need to find it, type thing.
That's hard work.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sugarcoat that. That was hard work. It took them about 4 years to do it for me. I went through about 5 different ones.
Do you want to make any comment? Do you want to say anything before we start, Amy?
Yeah, I might as well. I am Amy, and Bifuriousa. One and the same. Okay, being a philosophy student is difficult because now I qualify every single sentence I make. But I've been depressed for... I don't know, I can't remember not being at this point. So let's just call that most of my life. I am on medication, and it was a very, very difficult balancing act that we tried to find. Accessing therapy is hell. For me personally. I'm pretty sure it's a common experience, unfortunately. It just depends on what kind of doctor you get, what treatment seems to be available, which is very frustrating. Because particularly when I started trying to seek treatment as a student, I still partially lived at home. Now I'm based in one place, it's a bit easier, except that the one place I am based has fuck all. Are we allowed to swear on this?
In moderation.
Okay, well there's my one F word for the PG rating, I guess.
Yeah, you are our Wolverine.
Fair enough. Yeah, depression sucks, and I have it.
Yep. That about covers it, I think.
Yeah.
I'm to go pour myself a drink because we have there is a text-based game, and I don't entirely trust my stream to always have the text visible, which means we're going to be reading out a lot of stuff today.
That's fair.
So I'm just making sure I've got a drink to make sure my throat is well lubricated.
Makes sense.
Oh, I should say I actually haven't played this before. I'm familiar with it via other people. But I kind of figured I didn't want to play Depression Quest because I play it every single day and it's called my life. But I have used it educationally in that I requested one of my partners would play it because I'd heard it was really good at kind of encapsulating the experience of some of the difficulties I might be facing. And I think that helped as a resource. But it's my first time actually seeing it in person.
Cool. So, as you might expect from a game handling this kind of subject matter, we are starting with essentially a long-form version of the content note I have at the top of our screen, at the top of the stream here. Its emotional character is probably most indescribable, except as a sort of double bind in which any and all of the alternatives we associate with human agency, sitting or standing, doing or resting, speaking or keeping silent, living or dying, are not just unpleasant, but literally horrible. David Foster Wallace. Depression Quest is a game that deals with living in depression in a very literal way. This game is not meant to be a fun or light-hearted experience. If you are currently suffering from the illness and are easily triggered, please be aware that this game uses dark depictions of people in very dark places. If you are suicidal, please stop playing this game and visit the suicide prevention hotline to talk to someone. So this is an important thing that comes up a lot. So one of the first questions that I got asked when I was having therapy was, do you have any problems with suicidal thoughts? And the therapist basically said, because if you do, I'm afraid that's above my weight category and I'm going to have to send you up to someone I'm going to have to send you up to someone else, basically. So, yeah. The goal of the game is twofold. Firstly, you want to illustrate as clearly as possible what depression is like, so it may be better understood by people without depression. Hopefully there can be something to spread awareness and fight against the social stigma and misunderstandings that depression sufferers face. Secondly, our hope is that in presenting as real assimilation of depression as possible, other sufferers will come to know that they aren't alone, and hopefully derive some measure of comfort from that. Which is the same logic behind me creating this stream. You know, we're kind of getting together and talking about this. It goes without saying that because of the very nature of depression, it is experienced differently by every person who suffers from it. We aren't trying to say that it is the best or most accurate representation, merely that it is an amalgamation of experiences of developers and several people close to them. Many of the following encounters deal with issues such as therapy, medication, handling a love life, and reaching out to support networks. In reality, less than half of depression sufferers actually seek treatment for reasons such as lack of money, perceived social failing, or public stigma. These things were included in order to touch upon as broad a range as possible, since all of these elements can be very important to sufferers of depression, although they would likely not be the experience of most sufferers. It is important to recognise that not everyone with depression is so lucky. Many people with the illness don't have a lot of luxuries that we have in this game. We've written it this way so we can focus specifically on the illness, which it becomes more and more difficult to deal with as the person who has it is less and less well off. This game uses audio as part of the player experience, so we encourage you to play with sound on. Thank you for playing. So, view controls. Okay, so I'm just using a mouse, basically. It's a text-based game, so we are literally just we're just picking hyperlink options. That's the gameplay.
I think that like in the interactive fiction community, they talk about this being like a choice-based kind of interactive fiction as opposed to parser-based, which is the type of a command into a little prompt, and it's like open mailbox, and then the game will try to figure out what those letters mean. In this, there are links, and you pick a link, and you click on that link, and that's your user interface.
Yeah. To be honest, it's not that much different from a lot of user interfaces, it's just kind of stripped down to the very bones. Right. Let's begin. It is early on a Monday morning. You are a mid-20s human being. You have a significant other named Alex. Let's see, check this. Okay. So one of the nice things about Twine is that you can you can kind of expand on things by having it as a link inside a paragraph. So here we have a link forward to Alex. You meet Alex through a mutual friend a few months back. The two of you hit it off pretty well that first night, and after a series of initially awkward dates, you finally became a couple, much to your surprise and excitement. Alex is 3 months younger than you are, and is currently a student with a part-time job and broad social circle. She's also got a wide variety of interests, and oftentimes you worry that it might be too boring for her, but she's been good at trying to reassure you that she's happy with you. Your relationship consists of a lot of nights in watching Netflix when you both got time off work and she doesn't have classes, with the occasional social outing that she tends to have to talk you into attending. She tries to be understanding when you are in one of your moods, as she puts it, although you are starting to feel like she doesn't understand what it's like for you, and it is a source of tension in your relationship. Coupled with your reluctance to want to go to college parties, this feeds your worry of not being exciting enough for them. So I will note, I am personally Arrow Ace, a romantic asexual, so, I mean, like, obviously, like I said, not everything will apply to everyone, but, this is not, like, the significant other bit is not something I get. I think a lot of the information that we get is randomized, and we don't get a choice as to what it is, because, you know, a lot of it is that you're not necessarily able to choose how depression is affecting you. The other thing is, as it said on the last page, we're going to have access to a lot of different sources of support and stuff like that, as well as a lot of different side effects of depression. So the idea is not necessarily that you need to meet all of these, but rather one of these could be helpful for you. Anyway, you have a significant other named Alex, of who you are rather fond of, that you've been seeing exclusively for the past few months. The rest of your social circle consists of a variety of friends and acquaintances.
I was going to ask if you want me to read any of them out to save your voice, so just let me know if you need any of that.
Do you want to handle the social acquaintances one?
Sure, I guess,
For one that's on the screen right now.
Yeah, you'll have to scroll for me and stuff, but I should be okay. Your social circle is made up of a few close friends, some of which you've known from high school and some from jobs that you've worked. You've also made various acquaintances through reluctantly going to social events with Alex, and you keep in touch with a few friends of friends that you occasionally run into. You also have several online friends that you talk to regularly that you feel less guarded with, possibly due to communicating from the safety of being behind a keyboard.
I think all three of us can appreciate that one.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Online communication is beautiful and a joy. You enjoy the low commitment of the friendships, since they don't expect very much of you other than to listen and share personal thoughts and experiences. Despite the low commitment, you feel fairly connected with these people, and tend to be more honest with them than with people you interact with in real life on a day-to-day basis. Relate. Occasionally the screen blurs a bit when you scroll. Just waiting for it to unblur. Cool. You feel incredibly nervous trying to make new friends on your own, and are very good at talking yourself out of going to unfamiliar places or larger social engagements, regardless of how much you may actually want to attend. Meeting new people stresses you out to a high degree, and this is something you wish you could work past. You admit you have a bad habit of flicking on social engagements, even with long-term friends, and are puzzled as to why some days you just can't force yourself to go see these people that you really do care about. Those that have stuck around long enough to be that close with you understand that this is a thing you sometimes do, and have seemed to more or less accept it, even though they chide you for it on occasion. However, you've had friends in the past give up trying to maintain a friendship with you because of this trait, taking your social anxieties as a personal slight, or eventually getting tired of trying to track you down all the time. You feel incredibly guilty about this, but are not quite sure how to change.
Does anyone else feel like they just read a biography of themselves?
I do feel a little bit personally attacked.
I don't feel personally attacked. I more just feel like I just those kind of BuzzFeed "what kind of person are you" quizzes. I feel like I just took a really accurate one.
One of those online personality tests.
I definitely feel a lot of overlap with this description. I at least at present, I don't know. I feel a lot of overlap with it, but I don't know. It's not like spot on for me. And I don't know. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It feels a lot more like past Amy, which I guess is pleasant, because I definitely used to be basically exactly like that, but I am better at going to things now, which has been generally a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's nice to recognize progress now and then.
I should add that I can also read out passages, take turns with that.
Yeah, save everyone's voice.
Some of which the rest of your social circle consists of a variety of friends and acquaintances, some of which you met at your day job, which is a little boring but pays the rent. Packbat, do you want to handle the day job?
Sure. You have a day job which you feel is really nothing special. You started out receiving minimum wage, but have stayed around long enough to be making enough to support yourself. The work is dull and unrewarding, and most days you feel like just about anyone could do it. You have a hard time relating to most of your coworkers, so you mostly keep to yourself and get the work done while you're there. There are one or two people you chat with, though you wouldn't consider yourself close with them. a lot of days lately, you have a really hard time getting out of bed and forcing yourself to go in. You're starting to wonder how long you can keep this up. Field of interest, but feel like you are underqualified every time you look at online job postings. Sometimes you think about going back to school, but you would be unsure how you'd be able to support yourself and wonder if the degree would really help anyway.
So I think, so both me and Bifuriousa have still not escaped academia.
What do you mean escaped? I'm hanging on. I'm clinging in here forever.
Oh dear. I've done nearly 3 years of PhD, and I've learned I don't want to stay in academia.
So I went to therapy because I was having trouble with grad school, and let
sorry, you
grad
cut out
school
there.
drop, which is
Yeah.
it's the less fun way to escape academia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to stay in academia. I do love what I study very much, which is a very helpful thing. But it is frustrating when that isn't enough. That, you know, everyone talks about having a job that you love and want to go to, and I do, but I can't all the time do all of the things that I want to do for it. It's a different problem, but it's still depression.
Yeah. You would like to be doing more of your life, as would your parents, but you're still in the process of figuring out what that means and how to go about it. With parents. You're one of the few people you know of whose parents never got divorced, but you do wonder if they still love each other sometimes. You have an older brother named Malcolm who had moved across the country with his wife to work a high-paying job. Every major holiday that you see him at, you feel a bit jealous and like the lesser kid, despite being generally happy to see him. You feel very ashamed of these feelings. Your parents genuinely care about you. This often involves inviting you back to your childhood home for dinner, though your mum thinks you never visit quite enough. But you get the impression they don't fully understand you. They want to see you succeed and don't know why you haven't gone farther in life yet because you're so smart and talented. Anytime you try to talk to them about your motivation issues, they tell you the situation simply to work harder or want it more.
I just want to say the so smart and talented thing. That is a really terrible kind of idea that hurts a lot of people.
It's a curse that we lay on children. It was laid upon me and I hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I got very lucky and I have very good parents, so the family kind of thing with the smart and talented stuff wasn't quite there, like, not in the same way.
I escaped it from the immediate family in that my mum and dad have usually been very good, although the extended family, that it's a thing. They're very competitive. It's, you know, there was kind of going into my GCSEs and A levels, I did get constant reminders of what my cousin got, who is now a doctor, a medicine doctor, marrying another medicine doctor. He's very successful and he's a lovely, lovely guy, but it wasn't what a teenager with extreme anxiety and depression needed to hear.
Yeah.
Or any teenager, frankly.
I got that kind of in grad school from, like, professors and advisors. It wasn't... I guess it's probably less damaging, but it still was bad.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that I didn't do this last week, when it was National Mental Health Week here in the UK, I'm not sure whether it's international, was that I was prepping for my annual review meeting. And I had just handed in a piece of work that my supervisors weren't totally happy with. So they were happy with my progress overall, but I'd been working on that work today, and yeah. Anyway, your father is generally more forgiving of your lack of career path, where your mother seems to think you're too smart to be in the position you're in. You know that they love you and that they're not bad people, but you really feel like a big disappointment sometimes. You're also dealing with motivational issues that sometimes make dealing with things difficult. You feel like it's probably your fault, and on bad days can feel inwardly angry and down on yourself for being lazy, but you're not quite sure how you can break out of it or how other people deal with these feelings and seem so very functional. You spend a lot of nights fixating and thinking about this, but never seem to do anything about it other than losing sleep. So this is often called executive dysfunction.
Oh god, yeah. My life, my outlook on my a lot of my stuff changed entirely once I knew the words executive dysfunction.
So I wrote a post on my Tumblr side blog, Blue Sky Self-Help, that hasn't been updated for a long time. But I really like the post. It's called "Am I Being Lazy?" And because one of the big things, sometimes you are just. Sometimes it is just that you're not doing work. Like,
yeah, it's pretty human.
Yesterday, I didn't go out because I was waiting for a big package to be delivered, which still hasn't been delivered. But I said, right, I'm going to work from home, even though I was feeling fine. I still spent most of the day playing Stardew Valley when I probably should have done a bit more work. That was being lazy. Executive dysfunction is when I sit at the screen and go, I need to be doing work. I need to be doing work. Why aren't I doing work? And this can last for hours.
It's horrible. Like, it's really like the most hell being trapped inside your own brain feeling. When I've got so much to do, and I'm like, it's all open. I'm looking at it, and just nothing is happening.
I think one of the ways it's a more recent description, but one of the things I've seen for depression is everything takes more steps than it should. So, like, on a really good day, I like, my mental timetable would be something like wake up, get ready, leave the flat. On a normal day, like, those steps would be split up. So, wake up, get out of bed, have breakfast, have a shower. On a depression day, it becomes wake up, get out of bed, leave the bedroom, cross the living room, enter the kitchen, open cupboard. And the thing is, all of these steps individually take up the same kind of amount of mental energy as before. So, like, those 3 steps, which is literally just, okay, get out, have a shower, leave. And
Oh yeah, First Napkin has said in the chat, executive dysfunction is also when you want to do something you enjoy and can't, which is also important. I do get that one as well.
Yeah, so I mentioned this in the post that I did, which is basically, if you can't bring yourself to do something that you want to do, like, if you can't, executive dysfunction is like when you can't even procrastinate.
Yeah.
I think is a pretty good description of it.
Yeah, like, what I'm doing isn't even something else that is more enjoyable than the thing I want to do, or just different from the thing I want to do. It's just like nothing. It's like looking at the same thing for like an hour.
Yeah. And that's how depression works, kids.
That's how they get you.
Right. So we're finally ready to move on from the second page.
I feel like we've learned some important background information.
Yeah. It is an unseasonably warm Wednesday evening. I think you'll find it's Tuesday again, but close enough. You spent the last several hours at work. For the past week or so you found your job motivation flagging more so than usual. You've been in a fog practically all day, simply going through motions without realising even what you've been doing half the time, and yet time seems moving at half speed. You're so checked out that when your boss approaches you to tell you that it's dead and you can go home early, it barely registers. What's dead? Oh, right. I'm assuming, like, the store or whatever we're working in is dead.
Yeah.
Something like that.
As you walk home, the streets hiss from a recent rainfall. You know that your significant other will be in classes till late, a couple of hours at least. You briefly consider using this serendipitous solitude to catch up on that project you've been working on haphazardly for the past few months. A while back, you and some of your older friends were in a bar catching up. After liquefying considerably more of your paycheck than was perhaps responsible, and ending up thoroughly in your cups, you open up to the only people you really considered yourself close to, and end up launching yourself into a drunken tirade about meaninglessness of your utterly menial job, and ultimately your own existence. Having never really seen you in such a state before, your friends were briefly taken aback by your sudden, uncharacteristic outburst. One of your friends suggested that you get involved with your hobby on a more regular long-term basis, suggesting that spending your energy on something you actually care about might help you to cope with the shittiness of your 9 to 5. Although you're embarrassed that you let your guard down and you felt self-conscious at seeming to have single-handedly brought the mood down at the table, you convinced yourself on the cab ride home that maybe it would be worth trying out. You began your projects a month ago and have miraculously managed to keep at it, although your level of motivation and subsequent effort rises and falls considerably. While you were surprised when you started at how good it felt to be actually working something you're passionate about, late you found it hard to muster the energy to really care about even this. So honestly, I think the most obvious parallel for this bit with my life currently is actually either a PhD project, which, you know, is obviously a big thing that I'm invested in, but also streaming. Like, I've been doing it since the start of the year, and I really enjoy it, and depression rarely gets in the way of my... Depression is less likely to get in the way of my streaming, because often it's like, well, I probably, you know, if I end up doing something, I'll probably be playing games anyway, and this way I get to interact with people, sort of.
Yeah.
But it can't, like, there's some day, like...
Streaming to me, I think, very high energy, so it doesn't serve the same purpose for me, but that is, like, my own streams, it are probably that a similar kind of side project to this protagonist's side project in my own life. I think
Sorry.
just like, it's very performance and on and making stuff happen, I think, in my case. Like, it's energetic the same way that, like, doing, like, if I still played the piano, doing a piano concert would be energetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like, I've been using video games as a coping mechanism for a really long time, and not always in. I'm mature enough to admit this now, and I was kind of going to be playing them anyway, and I've not been streaming very long. I've only done a few, but I have found them genuinely enjoyable.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's really enjoyable. I like it a lot, but it's also, it's not something that I can do. It's one of the things in the Blue Sky Self-Help post that Matt posted in the stream chat the one with Are You Being Lazy, is this idea of levels of activity where there's some things that you can do regardless, and there's some things like level 0, level 1, level 2. Streaming is a high level activity for me, even though I enjoy it a whole lot. It's the kind of thing where I can just be very wiped out by it, but I find it like a really fun experience.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that. It is a thing that takes up a big chunk of energy. That's for sure.
I think the main, like, for me, the performance aspect, I am one of those people who finds it much easier to socialize via performance than I do via interaction. Like, streaming for me is actually quite a like, adding the stream onto my gameplay is not that much more than, you know, playing the game itself for me. And depending on the game, like, the reason why I started with Sunless Sea and Overwatch is that the reason why I started with Sunless Sea and Overwatch when I was first streaming is that I know exactly, you know, I knew I could play those during my depression. Like, I played a lot of Sunless Sea when I was in South Africa during that rather disastrous trip. So yeah, right. I think we're ready to stop. We're ready to move on.
Sorry if my dog made a weird noise. He is here with me. He's a good dog. Yeah, that noise. That weird noise. Coco! He does that. It's like sneezing. Also, I'm sorry. I didn't mute fast enough.
Pretty amazing weird noise, and he should be proud of being able to make noises that weird.
Anyway. So you briefly consider using this serendipitous solitude to catch up on that project you've been working on haphazardly for the past few months. As soon as you think about the work that awaits you at home, you can feel the panic creeping in at the back of your brain unbidden. All you can think about is how incredibly far behind you are, and the amount of work seems nothing less than insurmountable. By the time you arrive at home and change out of your uncomfortable work clothes, the stress is weighing down you like a heavy, wet wool blanket. Your computer seems to be staring you down from your desk. You want to sit down and work, but the mere thought of trying to work sends your stress levels flying. More than anything else, you suddenly and absolutely exhausted, and feel a strong desire to simply hide in bed. Do you, 1, order some food, grab a drink, and hunker down for a night of work? Reluctantly sit at your desk and try to make yourself do something? Turn on the TV, telling yourself you just need a quick half hour to unwind from work, or crawl into bed? And then at the bottom, we have a kind of summary of how we feel right now. You are depressed, intellectually exhausting, and you are becoming more and more withdrawn. You are not currently seeing a therapist, and you are not currently taking medication for depression. So this is the main mechanic of Depression Quest. Depending on your mood, options will become more and less possible. So we are not currently mentally able to take the first option of ordering some food, grabbing a drink, and hunkering down for a night of work. Hence why it's in red and crossed out.
I think one of the other things about it being there is just we know from like other people and culture, movies, books, etc. That's an option that exists, even though it's not an option that exists for us. So it's still going to be there as a comparison for everything else that we might do. Like, yes, in some theoretical sense, you could order some food, grab a drink, and hunker down for a night of work, but that's not going to happen, and that's not actually possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of the things that you get recommended to do as a depressed person feel kind of useless because it's like, know that I could and maybe even should do that thing, but I'm telling you that I'm not capable right now.
Hood in the stream chat calls it a societal should. External
Yeah.
should option instead of an option.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it, I think.
Yeah, and I think, like, this very blunt thing of, no, you can't do that is a very, like, that's what being depressed is like. You know
Yeah.
what your options are. But, okay, so how are we going to proceed? So I'm tempted to say, so I think it's gonna be one of 2 and 3. So we're going to try and avoid being in crawl to bed state. I want to say 2, sit down at your desk and try to make yourself do something, but my heart is saying that if I was in this situation, I'd pick 3.
Yeah, if I was being honest with myself, I know it's 3.
I mean, if we were honest, thinking about the streaming that we do, like a lot of it's on a schedule, and if it's scheduled, I would do 2. But like, that's kind of it being a schedule is another thing that helps me do it. So that would be the excuse I would give for doing 2.
I think for me, it's always easier to do stuff when other people are involved, like, because when you're streaming, the idea is trying to help out other people.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to assume that our kind of long-term project is something more, like, it's not like streaming, which, like, in terms of long-term projects, streaming is actually, like, where it's set up currently, I think is really low kind of maintenance, like, compare the amount of, like, just the amount of effort you need to put in for, like, editing, if you're going to be doing, like, YouTube videos rather than streaming. Which I tried.
I don't edit things. They just go on YouTube whole.
Exactly. Like, if we were actually writing... I've got some YouTube scripts that I keep like, I've got a load of stuff that's in the editing phase, and that's why it's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're choosing option 3.
Yeah.
The way this person described the project, it is not something like streaming where you get the reward every time and you're doing... You have something done every time, even if it is just I talked into a mic while stuff was happening on my screen for 2 hours.
Yeah.
But something's done whether you like it or not. Whereas with a project, like this sounded like the kind of project where, like, writing a book or like making a YouTube video or whatever, where it's not done until you get through all the steps.
So I think we're going to be doing 3. You know, it will just be a quick half hour, I swear.
Sure.
That's
Maybe we'll do the work afterwards.
That's literally the first line. Just in that half hour TV, you tell yourself, absently grasping for a remote. You don't so much sit down on the couch as sink into it. You turn on the TV and start going through your usual channel routine. After a few cycles of this, you realise you're not doing much more than thumb calisthenics and absently killing time. You check the clock and see that over 20 minutes have already passed since you sat down. As your self-imposed time limit creeps ever nearer, you become more and more anxious. You stand up and walk to the fridge, telling yourself, I'll just make a quick sandwich and get to work after that. Can't be productive on an empty stomach, right? As you eat, you start pacing around your apartment, heading past your bedroom in the process. You stop in the doorway as if physically unable to cross the threshold. Familiar waves of exhaustion start racking you, and you feel simultaneously tired and panicked. You close your door and head back to the couch. It's still early yet, you tell yourself. As long as I get to work in an hour, I'll have plenty of time to be productive. As you flip channels and let the CSI and Jeopardy reruns run over you, in my case, Midsummer Murders, I'm going to go off on a tangent because America has gotten the next season of Midsummer Murders before us, and I can't find a way to watch it. And like, one of the episodes involves them investigating a group of murderous clowns, so you know I have to watch this. Anyway. You seek deeper into the couch, feeling at once encroached upon and shielded by being quite literally swallowed up by it. As the second hour grows nearer, sure enough you find yourself getting anxious and jittery. You repeat the fridge-paced count process a couple more times before you look at the clock, and realise that several hours have passed, and not surprisingly you managed to get no work done. You crawl into bed, acutely aware of the fact that you had more work in the morning, that any opportunity you had to catch up on your own creative endeavours today was squandered. You're feeling so disgusted with yourself when Alex calls to talk to you on the way home from class. You simply say you had a really rough day at work and you're trying to rest up before your shift tomorrow. She says he understands and wishes you a good night, though you can't help but notice she sounds slightly disappointed. Ironically, the stress of potentially upsetting your partner compounds with the stress of not having gotten anything done at all this evening, and the stress of having to go into work tomorrow. The buzzing of anxiety in your brain melts together with your body's utter physical exhaustion, and you sink into a hyperorganic anxious funk. Too tired to try and work.
Sorry. A semi-hypnagogic anxious funk, I think.
But too anxious to fall asleep for several hours. So we have gone from you are depressed to you are very depressed. You spend a large amount of time sleeping, hating yourself, and have very little energy or motivation.
Yeah.
That was a good
I mean, wow. When did they break into my house and observe my movement patterns? Because that was me.
Yeah, like I said, this game is a very accurate depiction of depression sometimes.
Yeah, that's real.
It is a mild Friday afternoon. Alex calls you from one of your classes telling you that there's going to be a really awesome birthday party tonight at her apartment that one of her roommates is throwing. You've hung out with this roommates a few times with Alex, and you get along well enough but aren't particularly close. You don't have work in the morning and nothing else particular to do tonight. You're feeling kind of run down, but you have been fatigued most of the time lately. You mention that you're feeling ill because you're not sure how else to explain this feeling to someone else, and say that you aren't sure that you can make it tonight. There's a second of silence over the phone, but you can swear that you can hear the sound of your partner's face fall. She tries to convince you anyway. You haven't seen her this week, and she sounds pretty insistent that you come over. She even drops a few suggestively worded hints that you could stay over with them tonight after the party. What do? So shake off your funk and go have a good time with your girlfriend, agree to go, or say you're just not feeling well and can't make it. So going on with the whole, I think we're still at the point where, for this character, where even if we're not going to have fun, we're going to not disappoint Alex. I feel like that will overcome our I'm not going to go level.
Oh yes, disappointing other people is much worse.
Yeah, agreed.
So we're going to go. You agree to go, even though you are really not feeling social. You know it's important to Alex, and you'd really like
one of us to pick up a page.
Pardon?
If you wanted one of us to pick up reading a page.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
You agree to go, even though you're really not feeling social. You know it's important to Alex, and you'd really like to see her. Seeing her does make you feel better sometimes, and you hope that this is the case tonight, even if it does mean dealing with all the usual social anxiety. The time to leave rolls around, and you grab your overnight bag. Alex's apartment is a short walk away, and there are already people hanging out on the porch. You feel your chest tighten as you approach the building and try to steel your nerves. You quickly find your partner, chatting away with the birthday girl, and Alex immediately lightens up when she sees you. I'm so happy you came! I wasn't sure if you were going to make it. A young man taps her on the shoulder, and she turns back to you to apologize and let you know they have something to do for the party. They have to do something for the party. Alex hands you a beer before going off to deal with what. As you look around, you don't see anyone else you recognize. So the options are 1. Enthusiastically socialize. 2. Awkwardly stand in the same spot, unsure what else to do. 3. Put your bag in Alex's room and avoid the crowd in there for a while. 4. Cling to the back wall, sip your beer, and wait for your girlfriend to return. I think in earlier versions of the game, Alex was explicitly female in the text, and they maybe missed this edit. It feels like they've made it gender neutral
Sometimes
elsewhere.
Yeah, I've noticed occasionally the pronoun switches from she to they.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to edit it into they. Cling to the back wall, sip your beer, and wait for your partner to return. Or 5. Proceed to drink in earnest, hoping it makes you less uncomfortable.
So I actually think I'd go with number 2 again. Mainly because for me, like, the social kind of awkwardness of having to go up to Alex's room and kind of, like, know that I am there would probably, like, I'd have a decision paralysis. Basically, I'd go for 2, but only because I can't decide between 3 and 4.
I tend to go for 4.
All I can... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just like, if I've been handed a thing, so I will perform the appropriate interaction with the thing.
So, all I have to contribute is that someone mentioned that alcoholism existed once, and that's why I wouldn't do 5. But, like, between the other options, I feel like I wouldn't want to do 2, but I don't have a vote.
Okay, so I think we're moving towards 4 here. Cling to a back wall, sip your beer, and wait for your girlfriend to return, your partner to return.
Yeah.
It would make sense that
Or all 3 of them.
the non-binary person immediately slips up with the whole making it. The agender person, sorry, slips up with the whole making it gentless.
I mean, let me just point out that I didn't manage it when I was first reading through it, so...
Yeah. Anyway, let's cling to a back wall and drink my beer. As Alex leaves, you're not quite sure what to do yourself. Standing in the middle of the room leaves you feeling kind of exposed. I don't feel ballsy enough to randomly approach any of the groups of people clustered together, talking. You head to a clear spot of the back wall and lean against it. For some reason, it has always felt a lot more secure. You can scan the party for a familiar face or any sign of your partner, and come up with nothing. Not sure what to do, and worrying must look creepy to stand there watching everyone. You take out your phone to busy yourself. 20 semi-tedious games of Bejeweled Blitz later, your partner returns. You spend from the rest of the night with Alex, occasionally being introduced to people, and nodding along with group conversations even if you don't participate that much. So, one thing I will say, I am really bad at group conversations. Mainly because I've got fairly bad hearing, particularly with ambient noise. So I'm fine with stuff like this because I'm focused and stuff like that. But I don't go to pubs because I cannot hear anyone in them. And I haven't found a way to help because all the hearing aid stuff that I've seen are full frequencies, whereas this seems to be psychological, basically. At the end of the night, as you're falling asleep, your girlfriend and grip of your arm, she thanks you again for coming. Half drunk, she confides that you thought you were going to flake out, and was plenty surprised that you managed to come out. She says it lovingly, but you're not quite sure how you feel about that statement.
Yeah.
It's a little afternoon on a muggy Saturday. Your mother has come over for a surprise visit, claiming loudly that you don't see yourself enough, so she decided to invite herself over. As you converse, she walks around your place, and you get the distinct impression that you're being inspected. Sorry, inspected. Quotation marks mean that we should have some emphasis. So what's going on with you lately? She asks abruptly. Taken somewhat aback with this left fielder, you tell her that you're not sure what she means. She repeats the question, saying you haven't seemed like yourself lately. She gestured to the dirty dishes piled in the sink. My dishes haven't even made it to the sink. There's a pile next to me at my desk.
No.
Dishes are the thing that I find most hard because they happen they get increased at least 3 times a day. Well, if I remember to eat properly, they get increased 3 times a day.
Yeah, I feel that.
And I don't have a dishwasher or anything like that. And notes the fact that you haven't called or visited in a while. So, yeah. One of the big problems that I had is that I am bad at... I have 2 modes. I share everything, or I say nothing. Those are my 2 modes of existence. And for ages, I said nothing. So my parents didn't know that I was having my anxiety problems until after my second visit to A&E. That's when I called them and said, I am having a seriously bad time. Likewise, there was a bit where, I rang my parents and I sounded so bad. They basically said, "Yeah, we're coming to pick you up and you're coming to stay with us." And I didn't say no or anything like that. And basically later on, my mum said, "Yeah, I could tell just from looking at your flat, because I've always been messy." But she said, looking at your flat, I could just tell you're not handling things at all. So that was fun. Also, discussing the gender politics of where I grew up could be an entire game. It could be an entire stream subject by itself, or a podcast
gender
subject.
politics.
Of course, Bifuriousa, as somebody who studied this on an academic level.
Related issues, but not exactly the same thing.
I mean, his gender politics in a social sense, so...
Yes.
Basically, as I was... as most people thought I was a guy, including myself. For reference, I'm non-binary, agender. I was kind of expected to, have all of these rough and tumble games and, stuff like that. And people like my best friends at the time, who, honestly, we were probably friends because we lived across the street from each other and were the same age, rather than, being friends. Yeah, my best friend at the time, sister's sister, who was much more willing to get involved in that kind of stuff, was held back. And I was sitting there just going, I don't really want to do this, but Mum and Dad don't seem to, Mum and Dad, aren't saying anything, and the rest of the parents seem to be, encouraging it. So, and Mum and Dad were sitting there just going, Matt seems to be enjoying this, so we're not going to tell him not to do it. But if he doesn't want, if he says he doesn't want to, we can have the excuse of, no, we're not letting you do that on standby. The old get out of doing something because your parents won't let you trick. If we had just if both sides had been slightly better at communicating, I think my childhood would have gone quite a bit smoother. Just like, are you gonna say something's wrong? Nope. So one of the things that I've been trying to do recently is even if I've not really had a major problem, I've been calling them, mainly so that I kind of get into the habit, so when I do have a major problem, I remember to let the people who care about me know that I have a problem.
Why would I do such a thing? That sounds like a really good and sensible measure that you've got yourself into. The first thing that goes with me is the communication. I just don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Extremely convenient. Thank you, my brain. No, and then one time I had to repeat a year at one point in university because I had not attended any of it and was not going to be able to get the work done to the level I wanted to get done at, considering I knew I wanted to do my degree well and enjoy it. Like, I liked the subject and wanted to continue it. So I repeated a year, and the university were super, super supportive, like cleared me for it really easily. The support network in place there was good. But when I told my family, it went incredibly badly. And I got told off for not having communicated with them that I wasn't feeling very well, which was not helpful.
Yeah. There was a blog post I saw recently which was just pointing out that if you want someone to do something, you shouldn't punish them for doing it. And getting on someone's case because they finally opened up is not a way to make them feel good about opening up.
Yeah.
So yeah. One of the things that helped me a lot was because one of the big things I found was when I was low on energy, or low on spoons, as you might say, one of the hardest things to do was imagine having to explain exactly what I was doing, and how I was feeling. And so one of the things that I did when I was kind of recovering and I got on my medication is I basically explained to my parents what my prototypical bad day meant, so that now when I've had a bad day, I can just say I had a bad day, and I won't get a load of questions of what do you mean by bad day, because they know what like 99% of my bad days are like when I'm using it in this context. So I don't get the Inquisition.
That's good.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I would like to be able to do that, but the anxiety around communicating that is bad even when I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I have a kind of relationship. It's complicated.
Yeah, I will also note that I did this when I was kind of on the high, because you get kind of like a high period when you first go on meds, which is just like if it works, you quite often get, from what I've been told, a kind of period where it works far better than it will representatively.
Really?
That's what I've been told by people. There's
oh my god, because I had that and I thought that was what being normal was, and ever since then I've been beating myself up for not feeling that again.
No, apparently there's a honeymoon period.
God damn!
You see, antidepressants are really confusing.
Oh, sorry.
So I was able to do that. It was over Christmas break, so we're already in kind of like it wasn't Christmas itself, but like we're in the kind of daisy. There's nothing else kind of stacked up to cause problems type thing. Like the Christmas to New. I think Christmas to New Year. If you celebrate it the way that we do, might be the best time to do stuff like this. Because just like Boxing Day, you're still feeling you're too sleepy to move because of the dinner last night. But it's not like Christmas. Boxing Day, I'm putting that down. Boxing Day, best day of the year to talk about depression. If there's one thing you take away from this stream.
I can't wait to celebrate Boxing Day.
And what's more, you can try and get some exercise in because you talk about depression while boxing on Boxing Day.
That is what it's for.
Yep. Anyway. So, she gestured to a dirty dishes piled in the sink. Called out. And notices the fact that you haven't called or visited in a while. Your reticence only seemed to spur her on more. She presses you, asks if you're having any problems at work or with Alex, and you're beginning to feel battered by her sudden well-meaning but overwhelming inquisition. So that's exactly what I was talking about there.
Yeah.
Like
First napkin brings up that kind of thing. The thing I hate is when I say I'm feeling down and people go, why? And try to find the source of your badness. Because feeling down for no reason isn't a concept some people understand.
Yeah, like my partners are generally really good about it, but even then, one of them does still have a habit of, if I'm saying like I had a bad day, it's kind of sometimes followed up with a few questions of like, why, what happened, which bit, and I don't know, it was just bad. It's very hard to articulate, and sometimes I don't know why I'm having a bad day yet.
I will note one of your partners is one of the people who played a major role in me not going further off the deep end than I did in 2012.
He's very good.
Yeah. The other one, I need to get the other one on a stream sometime because she's hilarious.
Also good.
But yeah, I got very lucky in that I had two very good friends. Well, I had plenty of very good friends, but I had two friends who were particularly good at dealing with me in that particular time. One of them was also the first kind of diagnosis that I got of health anxiety. This consisted of her sitting me down, looking at me, and going, "Matilda, you have a crazy." She was also one who gave me the nickname Matilda, so, you know.
Cool.
Under her
questions... I'm pretty sure I know the person you're talking about, and she's a blessing and has taught me a lot about living life.
Yeah. Under her questions, you become increasingly uncomfortable. You want to be able to explain to her how you've been feeling, but the truth is you're not really sure yourself. Nothing horrific has happened at work or with your significant other or friends or anything like that, but all the same you can't really deny that lately you just feel drained and as though you're not really here. You wish you could tell your mother these things, but she hasn't been approachable about negative emotions in the past. She is the kind of person who holds the opinion that the solution to any problem is to simply try harder and maintain a positive attitude, a stance that had reared its head in past conversations where you begin to explore the subject with her. You know she's unlikely to be understanding, and you feel the energy drain out of you as you imagine what would happen if you managed to blurt out everything that you are feeling. What do? Let her know you've been feeling down lately and that you appreciate her concern. No. That's not a thing we can do right now. Try to be honest with her anyway. Tell her everything is fine and thank her for asking, or change the subject. Oh boy.
I feel like you're not going to get away with changing the subject at this point.
Yeah. Also, I don't think I'd have the mental energy to find a new subject.
Yeah, that does involve having a backup subject to switch to. I mean, this game just like called out my mum pretty hard, so.
Same.
I don't want to say that in a way that is negative about my mum, because she's good and she tries, but I don't think she knows what's happening in my head. And I mean, I don't expect people to know what's happening in there, but you know,
one of the things
there is a lack of understanding, and it's hard.
One of the things I think about depression is just that a lot of it's very good at basically kind of ripping apart a lot of the usual coping mechanisms that society tells us to use. And if you're able to use those coping mechanisms and you don't have any other ideas about how to use it in your toolbox, similar thing, she's the kind of person who holds the opinion that the solution to any problem is to simply try harder and maintain a positive attitude. If you don't have stuff in your toolbox that can actually handle the depression, that can actually, handle the depression, it's basically you're trying to apply a hammer when you need a screwdriver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for real.
Like, if you try hard enough, that screw will go in the wood, but it's not going to go in a very healthy way.
It'll be really bad, and then it'll be more of a fuss trying to get it back out and do it right.
Yeah, and then you'll need to stick the wood back together, and I think we can tell who in this chat has recently had to put together flat back furniture.
Oh yeah, I built a TV stand the other day, actually.
I built a dining room table, and
Nice!
I'm still waiting for a big desk to come.
IKEA, I love it.
So the desk was actually from a shop. Never mind. My dining room table wasn't the IKEA. I think I know exactly what I'd do, like, before I was able to explain to my parents what the problem was, and that was tell them everything is fine and thanks for asking.
Yeah, I mean, like, I want to go with be honest, and maybe it'll help, but I'm already getting secondhand anxiety for this fictional character about everything that could go wrong with that.
Yeah. And also, it's kind of a path of least resistance. Just like, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
We're fine.
That's the easiest response to give, and yeah, 3 is probably the easiest thing you can do.
I have an easier thing that we can do, I can do, which is standing up and turning on my lights because my room is very dark and my eyes are getting strained.
I should do that. I'll do that. I mean, my dog is under the light switch. Oh, he looked up when I said that. But I don't think he can reach it because he's so old.
Okay. Everything is fine, and thanks for asking. I'm okay. Amy, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I'm okay, Mum, really. Thanks for worrying about me. I'm sorry, my dog is making those noises again. He's fine! He's fine!
It's fine. Everything's fine.
It's fine. Honestly, I was so worried the first time he did this, but he hasn't progressed in any way to looking ill. He's fine. Anyway, your mother looks at you from across the room with furrowed brows, and you wonder if the tone in your voice was the least bit convincing. She slightly opens her mouth as though she was about to say something more, but instead she digs through her purse for her cell phone, having apparently decided against it. Well, as long as you're okay, honey, her voice trails. As your mother returns to what amounts to more or less small talk, you realise that this part of the conversation has happened a lot recently. Someone will express concern for you, or ask if you're okay, or out of seemingly nowhere. You tend to find that it's simpler just to declare that you're okay than find the right words for complicated and murky feelings. Besides, since none of them are in reaction to a specific event, maybe you really are okay, and just complaining about nothing anyway. Sometimes, when you insist that you're okay to those who ask, you have to wonder if you're really trying to convince them or yourself.
I know that slight change in your tone of voice, because I've known you for a very long time. That's the sound of Amy going, am I reading about myself?
Am I reading about myself? What has happened here? I do think this is something I've improved at, but certainly I recognise this.
Yeah, I don't know about trying to convince myself. Like, if anyone asks how I'm doing, most of the time it doesn't yeah, I'm doing good. Or at worst, I'm taking along, still breathing. It is. Sorry, go ahead.
I saw a post on Tumblr which was just like walks into my therapist's office and it's just like during the small talk phase, how are you? Oh, I'm doing okay, you know, can't complain. During the actual therapy phase, everything's terrible!
Yes, exactly that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's move on. It is a lazy Sunday morning. You are idly clicking around online as your phone rings. Sam, a co-worker of yours that you're friendly with, asks how you are and make hurried small talk with you. You typically only ever talk to him on the phone when one of you needs a shift covered, so it's slightly awkward. You're waiting in anticipation for him to ask you to come in on short notice, when he veers the conversation in a completely different direction. How do you feel about cats, he asks. Mine had kittens a few weeks ago, and I'm having an awfully hard time finding a home for the last one of a litter. You don't have any pets, right? It takes you a moment to process this new information, and you're caught off guard as he earnestly tries to sell you on the idea of taking the last kitten off his hands. It is not something that you had specifically considered before, and he seems fairly insistent. She's a real sweetheart, really loves people. She got all her shots already taken care of, and the vet said she's healthy as a horse. That's a bad metaphor if you know anything about horses. I can bring her over by your place tonight if you're interested. You look around her apartment and try to picture a cat in it, as he continues to tell you about how cute she is. You tell them it's all kind of sudden and that you don't have anything for a kitten set up here. Oh, don't worry about that. I can bring over a litter box and food and all that since you'd be really helping me out of a fix. It's the least I could do. I just don't want to have to put her in a shelter. You can't help but feel you're being guilt-tripped, but you decide to give it some serious consideration. It does get awfully lonely around your cat, and it might feel less empty with a cat around. However, since you're feeling so down, it might not be a good idea to take on responsibility of a cat, even if they are fairly low maintenance. What do you do? So, take the cat, knowing full well you can take care of it. Nope. Decline, even though you're totally taking care of it, you're not much of a cat person. Become a cat owner, you could use companionship. Decline, you're not in a good enough place to be taking more responsibility right now. Or decline, you don't like cats. So, one of the things that people often talk about when they have depression, like pet owners with depression often say that, you know, the whole thing about being able to do stuff if it's for other people, a lot of people say that applies to pets as well.
It does.
Like, you may not be able to feed yourself properly, but the cat's gonna get fed.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in that position. They're also genuinely very good to have around. Like, I mean, yeah, you know, I have the 2 dogs. We also have a cat, and they're just so good and pure. And you can cuddle them a bit. And it's nice to feel responsible for something's life when you're doing okay at it. They're fed and all the things that they need, and that's good, and I did that.
Yeah.
Your cat likes to sleep on top of me when I go to stay at your house.
She just likes to sleep, but yes, she does like you. She senses other cat likers.
So the main reason I haven't got a pet is just because, with my, I have a fairly, like I said, I have a fairly unpredictable schedule, and I'm actually fairly often, travelling, for conferences and stuff. And,
Yeah.
if my life was a bit more stable, then I'd totally have a pet, but it's just a case of I don't feel it'd be fair to a pet to have an owner who's constantly disappearing, particularly as I live alone.
Yeah, that's a responsible attitude.
I think I might be allergic.
Oh dear.
I mean, it just... my piano teacher had multiple pets, and occasionally, after spending time at a house that is encatted, I will get that scratchy throat thing going on. So, also, I wouldn't want a pet getting lost in this house. It is full of mess. So, again, not the kinds of reasons that apply to the protagonist.
Yeah. I'm gonna vote we take the cat.
I would also vote that.
I mean, yeah.
You accept the offer of a kitten and hang up shortly after making arrangements for when your co-worker can drop her off tonight. You're not entirely sure what to expect, and you spend the rest of the afternoon researching cat care online and trying to think of a name. The evening rolls around and you hear a knock at your door, starting you out of reading Wikipedia entirely too hard. You take possession of a small, terrified black and white kitten in a carrier, along with everything you need to start taking care of her. You take her into your bedroom, close the door, and open the door to the carrier excitedly. She cowers in the back of it, and you back off. Feeling slightly defeated, you remember what you researched when introducing a kitten to a new home, and leave her alone to go and mess around your computer, hopefully checking over your shoulder every so often to see if she come out yet. She hides inside her carrier periodically, making sorrowful cat howls long enough for you to start worrying that she already doesn't like you. But by the time you go to bed, she's curled up at the foot of it, eyeing you nervously before falling asleep. Over the next few days, you gain her trust, and she begins affectionately following you around, sleeping on you, and hopping off on you anytime you sit down to do some work. Or stream, as Amy can note.
I love her. Yeah, no, she sits on my desk exactly when it's not appropriate.
Do one of you want to take this one?
Sure. It's late Friday afternoon, and quitting time is just around the corner. A bright, clear day is giving way to a still, temperate evening. You can hear your co-workers all around you, anxiously making plans for their evenings and weekends, but you're really looking forward to just going home and resting, after what's turned out to be a very long day and taxing work week. Just before the end of your shift, you get a call from Alex. It seems a group of your mutual friends are heading out to a nearby pub for dinner and drinks to celebrate the end of the week, and they want to know if you'd like to come along. You tentatively tell her that you're too emotionally exhausted from the work week, and a social outing like that would just take too much out of you today. You encourage her to go and have a good time, since you know it's been a while since she's gone out with friends, but the effort feels futile since you know that she isn't going to go without you. A couple of hours later, the two of you find yourselves in a familiar position, on the couch, watching comedy shows on Netflix, a box of pizza open on the coffee table in front of you. As you look across the couch at her, you start to feel anxious. You feel bad about effectively forcing the two of you to stay in tonight, again. While you are always appreciative of your partner's efforts to take your feelings into account and help make sure you're socially comfortable, you sincerely worry that you're holding her back from enjoying a more fulfilling relationship. While she does seem to enjoy spending time with you, as the two of you sit in comfortable, almost contented silence, watching old shows you've seen 2 or 3 times before, your ever-increasing fear that your relationship is becoming one-sided weighs more and more heavily on you. You feel more than ever like a burden or a ward to her, and it's virtually impossible for you to see what value you could possibly offer her in return. Worst of all, this nagging fear has made you feel more self-conscious than ever, withdrawing ever inwards, and you've started to pull away even from Alex herself. What do you do? 1, you know despite the bad times your girlfriend sincerely loves you. Relationships are a two-way street, and you resolve to always be there for her like she has for you. That's not happening. 2, tell Alex how important she is to you and enjoy your evening. We're also not there. 3, ask Alex if she's happy with your relationship. 4, don't say anything. You're already worried about her being upset with you.
Shall we bite the bullet?
I was going to vote that we bite the bullet.
Yeah, I would also vote that. And also big mood.
Oh.
Are you happy?
Do you love me? Should I continue?
Yeah.
You look over at Alex, who hasn't noticed you watching her yet, and you try to pass the expression on her face. You worry that it's one of sheer boredom and bare tolerance. You wonder if she's thinking about all the fun things she could have been doing tonight if she wasn't trapped here on this couch with you, ordering from one of the same 3 takeout places. Wow, stop attacking me. That you always order from. A sense of disappointing her creeps over you as you picture what the night could have been if you had just accepted the invitation she'd made earlier. I know this is a pretty boring Friday night for you. Are you really happy being with me? Being like this? She turns to look at you, forehead wrinkled. Why do you ask me that so often? Feel her body stiffen and pull away from you just a little. It's everything I feared. Well, I mean, you start, but are unable to try and think of how to answer. 1, it's probably silly, but it's reassuring when I hear that we're on the same page. 2, I want to make sure I'm right for you. 3, I know it's not what you'd usually be up to. 4, I don't know. I guess I get kind of worried that you're getting bored sometimes. 5, never mind. Yeah, 4 is what I would go with usually. I mean, ideally 1, because that communicates your emotional needs. But yeah.
We are still very depressed.
Still very depressed.
Also, I think acting like we do, I think acting in a way that's true to our own lives might be being reflected by us getting slightly more depressed each day.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
Shall I take...
Yep.
Alex, look, if that were the case, I would let you know. I don't think you're boring. You're more of a homebody than I am. I'm learning how to deal with that. Deal with it? You think, repeating it in your mind. Does she see it as a problem to be dealt with? You try to pick her reply apart in your mind, and all your conclusions lead to your previous worry, that you're holding her back. You begin thinking that the phrasing was chosen without too much deliberation, and that despite her attempts at reassuring you, this slip of the tongue revealed her true feelings. As you picture how much fun she'd be having right now if you had only accepted her invitation and managed to somehow get over your reservations and anxieties, despite not knowing how you would go about that, she cuddles back up to you. Thanks for putting up with me, you say, staring at the TV without actually watching it. She sighs in response.
So this is one of these behaviours that I think I've gotten really good at calling out in other people. Like, my response to that, the protagonist behaviour, I mean. I've gotten really good at kind of responding to other people with, when they say things like that, with something along the lines of, I know what, I don't think of it that way, and I already know that, so, I'm basically kind of going, shutting it from stuff like, would I hang out with you if I didn't think you were worth doing it? I'm also very bad at doing it to myself. So, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's a different kind of thing, recognizing the behavior from the outside and then also being able to do it when you're there. It takes work. Yeah, I've been there.
It is a breezy Sunday afternoon. You've allowed Amanda, an old friend from school that's in town for a weekend, to talk to you and to leave her house for coffee and catch-up. You meet her in a small cafe and talk about what you've been up to since you last seen each other, and you can't help but feel that they are a lot more accomplished and interesting than you are while listening to talk about their life after school. When it's time for you to brief them on your activities, you feel anxious and ashamed, and give a very abbreviated version. You try to talk about your job as little as possible, and you feel incredibly boring, despite her expressing sincere interest in you and your life. Amanda has known you long enough to read your mood and tone of voice. He leans in to ask a question, while gently touching your hand, a look of genuine concern on her face. What's wrong? Do you suggest to change location and confide in her honesty? Test the waters and open up a little, hoping that she'd understand? Insist that nothing's wrong and change the subject? Defensively ask what she means by that? Notice that your hands are shaking. 2 or 5. She's a...
5? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, in this situation, it is very likely that I'm looking at my hands. So,
Love to look at my own hands.
And your hands are shaking is one of those things that's like, hard to, like, even society says that that's a sign of strong emotion and something going on.
Yeah. It's such a small question, but it feels like a blow to the gut. You surprise yourself when you realise that your tightly clenched fists are now beginning to shake slightly. Despite your best efforts, you feel tears begin to sting at your eyes. You try to disguise this by tipping your head up and praying that they'll suck back in. She suggests that the two of you get out of there, and you feel mortified. She offers to go back to your apartment with you, but the two of you end up talking a guitar for 2 hours as the words pour forth from you. Amanda seems unsure what to say at times, but she listens and rubs your back as you stop and talk. She asks if you've gone to a doctor about this, and you admit that you haven't. She mentions that her mother is seeing a very good therapist in town and offers to ask her about it. You're not thrilled about the idea of going to a therapist, and even less thrilled that Amanda might be telling someone about your problems, but she persists, and she tells you that she'll email you the doctor's contact information later in the week.
That sounds mostly positive?
Yeah.
Good?
It is also giving me very strong flashbacks to when the friend that I talked about earlier told, like, obviously she knew a lot more about mental health than I think Amanda does, but like it was that kind of situation, having a breakdown in front of her, that got it there. So this feels very realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it is a good therapist.
Yeah.
Sorry, was there something else you want to say, Packbat?
Oh, just there's a thunderstorm happening here. My brother just got home, so if you're hearing noise from my end, or if I suddenly vanish off the internet, it's probably like something happening on my end.
Yeah.
Um,
I will note we are very close to the 2-hour mark for the stream. So
does Depression Quest have a save function? I guess it does.
no,
Ready?
not that I can tell.
I'm gonna type it into Google.
So, to be honest, I don't think that this would be like a regular thing, because this is a stream for, like, I chose to do it because it was Mental Health Week last week.
Right. Yeah.
I,
Okay. I just checked, and Depression Quest does not have a save file. Continue.
Oh wow.
Oh, I think I heard the thunder there.
Yeah. I don't have the emotional energy to make this into a series like the Destiny or Overwatch streams.
Yeah. And if it doesn't have a save, you'd have to leave the game open between sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not gonna lie. It's 9 o'clock here, and I am, if not physically tired, then I will admit I'm getting quite emotionally tired from this.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, it can be pretty draining.
I think a combination of this and, you know, it getting late is just kind of wiping me a bit.
Yeah.
I think this is a good introduction to the game. This is a really good introduction to the game for anyone who hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about some stuff. So
Yeah. So I think.
Yeah, we've achieved the mental health awareness goal.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
finally got someone sitting that down and saying you have a crazy.
Thank goodness.
yeah.
And knowing is half a battle. Well, no, it's like 2%.
It's like the beginning of the battle, honestly. Although,
Yeah.
I mean, like 10 minutes into it, how long is the battle? It's a long battle.
We've reached the first
Anyway.
prereq.
Yeah.
So we've got some carrying on. So I think a good way to end this would be, first Natkin in the chat has asked, carry on from this, what would people advise you do if you think someone is suffering from depression? Is what Amanda did a good model?
Okay.
think so. I think it falls into. I think her response depicted here falls into the category of good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Particularly if you it's fairly sudden. She's just invited an old friend out, you know, for to get some coffee and cake and catch up, and then they have a breakdown in front of her and start sobbing in her car, like.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be so difficult to react to that.
Yeah.
It does come on. It is sudden, and it's something that you do want to get right. I don't think there is one way to react to it that is good. Carry on, sorry.
I think I would put down as a thing that she clearly did well is made you feel safe to continue talking. And giving you space, like getting you out of the cafe, and like, but into a space which is a little more private. It was going to be your apartment, but it ended up being her car instead. Giving you a chance to talk and I'm guessing validation of the feelings, like, yeah, that sucks. I think it's strongly implied that she did that, and that is big. That's actually a thing that I think Alex dropped the ball on a bit, is like Alex responded to what you said in saying, like, yeah, yes, I'm happy with our relationship, and I'm happy being with you. But she didn't, or they didn't, like, I don't think they didn't bring it out where it's like getting to the feelings. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the space to talk is necessary and important, and the validation of it is what you need.
So
I think just knowing the person you're talking to is always going to be an advantage.
it occurs to me, a suggestion I saw on Tumblr that seems like a good suggestion for depression specifically is suggesting to someone, like, that they sort of self-score themselves on something like the Beck Depression Inventory, because, like, one of the themes that you could see in Depression Quest all the way through is that you keep denying that this stuff is happening, or it might just be you being lazy, or you don't understand it. But something like the Beck Depression Inventory, you can say, most people never score above 10. Most people don't score above 10 on this test. And a lot of people score 0. Depression Inventory, and tell them that, and they score 4, then that's really hard to deny. And that it, like the shaking hands thing, that's a thing where they can look at it and say, no, this is real, this isn't just me being lazy.
Yeah, that is a kind of, that's an external, like, confirmation that something is happening that is not necessarily a thing that happens ordinarily, and that it can potentially have a solution, and you might get a better understanding of it by seeing a medical professional is good. And seeing medical professionals is a difficult subject for me because I've had very mixed experiences over a very long time. But I'm never going to tell someone to not try, and that a diagnosis can be very helpful. And even if you can't get that, you can get referred to by looking up this resource. You just, sometimes you just need the information, and knowing yourself kind of what you might be up against and what type of solutions there might be can lead you to advocating for yourself, which is hard, and I don't like necessarily that I have had to do that a lot. But there have been points where I've just kind of been turned away from services, and if I hadn't known, no, there is a problem, I need this help, then I don't know where I would have gone.
Yeah.
So, always see a doctor. And I'm sorry if it doesn't help the first time, but keep trying.
Yeah. This has been recorded. I'm assuming people are okay with me putting it on YouTube.
I am.
I am.
Cool. That's why I was recording the chat and the stream. So in the YouTube description, I'll put in a load of all the resources that I've collected up. So I know there's one particular site on the NHS. It's one of the local NHSs that has a really good selection of kind of self-help like kind of not quite brochures because that implies a bit too short, but like kind of booklets that you can get the PDFs off free online, including if you're not actually from the UK, which I found really helpful, and I often send it to people. There will also be things like any helplines that I can find. There's a master post of suicide helplines on Tumblr that I can put. I'll probably link to for different countries rather than just one. I'll link to there's a couple of different kind of diagnosis tests for depression that you can take. One thing about being diagnosed for depression is that there's a fairly good chance if you take enough of a depression, like self-diagnosis forms that you can find, there's a good chance you'll be handed either the same one or one very much like it. Because the thing about depression is that it's an entirely self-reported illness. Like, you can't look like... It's not like a broken leg where the doctor can go, oh right, yeah, that's bone coming out of the skin. That's a broken leg. It's, they have to rely quite a bit on your testimony. So, if you're worried about getting a diagnosis, and you have access to medical care, if you take some self-diagnosis stuff, you'll probably get a similar result if you go to get an official one. Just because you're probably going to be taking the same kind of test.
Yeah. I think the one available on the NHS website is literally the one they hand you in the GP if you go and tell them, I think I'm depressed. I've done it multiple times.
I think so. As you might have noticed that the fact that me and Bifuriousa are both talking about the NHS. We're both from the UK. Packbat is from the US, and obviously healthcare stuff is different.
Yeah, one of the things about the US is that healthcare stuff is really heterogeneous in the US. Like, my experience with my HMO is going to be different from somebody else's experience with some other HMO, or experience with a different kind of health insurance that doesn't have, like, their own therapists on staff that they send you to. Like, a lot of people going to a therapist is you're trying to find a therapist that is in the US. You try to find a therapist that your health insurance will cover. And in my case, it's, well, unless I go through all their therapists and still haven't found a match, then they're going to send me to another one of their therapists.
Yeah.
So it's going to vary by... It's not going to be a same experience for everyone. It's, I guess, another way in which everything is complicated is trying to figure out what resources you even have to access.
Yeah, I think that's still probably to a lesser extent, but still true in the UK, in that the mental health is divided by region. And budgetary concerns mean that not every region has the same mental health care provision. And also moving between those services can be difficult. It might also vary by what age group you're in. I've just got kicked out of one for hitting a certain age bracket. I've got kicked out of the youth one because I am now 25. Although, well, soon enough. But I didn't like going there anyway. Which is a whole separate issue.
Yeah, I think Our experience of this and the topic itself is so broad that we could probably do a mental health podcast at this point. And we certainly know plenty of people who could join in. This is not me offering to start doing a mental health podcast, by the way.
We need to save all of this mental energy.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I was about to say maybe once I finish my PhD, but then like the internal editor in my brain is just like, no, Matilda, you can't even keep your self-help log updated.
Mm.
Don't do this, Matilda.
Yeah, balance the things that you can do and want to do and have energy for.
Yeah.
Etc.
So anyway,
Yeah, and I mean, as much as I complain about mental health services are patchy and underfunded and can be very difficult to find the right option for you. Ooh, thunder.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I quite like thunder. I still do say go and try and find them, and I'm sorry that it sucks so bad to do it. But I do recognize improvements I've made, and I wouldn't have made them if I hadn't gone to a doctor in the first place.
yeah. I mean, I would note that, like, going back to my kind of starting monologue, I definitely had problems when in my second year of undergrad, but at the same time, I also managed to do well enough in my third year to outbalance the stuff in the second year, and I got into another master's program. Just from like the obvious kind of place to kind of continue from where I was saying there. So I think, it's not all been downs, there have definitely been ups. And it's a case of managing the downs and trying to live your life as best you can, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any final thoughts before we say our goodbyes?
Yeah, I have more thoughts than again would fill a podcast, so I wouldn't know which one to pick. Yeah, if you are depressed or anxious, I'm sorry and I love you. It's hard and horrible, but you can do it. Keep on trucking. I'm doing it. We're doing it. We can all do it together.
I think the only thing I can think of is just like after like going through some in transitioning, like changing my outfit and starting hormone replacement therapy, I did notice, like, looking back, sometimes it's a lot more obvious. I looked at a lot of my favorite songs from before I knew, and it was kind of intense seeing how, like, getting in touch with that brain space and being able to look at it and compare it to the now and being like, I was in a really bad way. I wasn't in the worst way, but I was in a bad way. But I'm in a better way now.
Yeah, and of course, the way that being trans or generally or queer interacts with depression is a whole other thing.
I had to change therapists. My first therapist didn't get it.
Yeah, I've had some interesting conversations being queer, certain mental health professionals. I'm cis, but I'm also bisexual and have multiple partners. And also just general sexism happens.
Mm.
I have been told that my life will settle down once I have children. And you know what? You don't know if I want children, can have children, and also that's not relevant. That's a whole other rant. But yes, intersectionality will also play a part in seeking mental health treatment.
Yeah.
And of course, also class, of course, like as we were talking about earlier with access to healthcare. But again, we started for podcast series. So I think we're going to finish it now, at least for this stream. We've just hit the 2 hours 15-minute marks of recording, so I'm going to end this with a picture of Cinnamon the Sloth sent by my friend from the Discord server when me and Packbat first met. Come in to kind of give everyone some hugs and some positivity at the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, this was obviously a relatively heavy stream, so I would encourage some self-care.
Yeah.
Whatever that means to you. If you've been, feeling the emotions.
Yeah. So, tomorrow, speaking of a bit more levity, tomorrow the Pokemon Maker Team stream is back. So Ben will be coming on that. So if you want to hang out and just goof around watching that, that's cool. If not, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Do whatever you think you need to do, whether that's something that you want to do or something that you think you need to do, which can be two different things. But
yeah. Oh my god, my dog. No, my dog, my dog.
So I think we're gonna end with on Coco's wise words.
I'm so sorry. He's okay.
Well, it's goodbye from me.
Have a good
goodbye
time,
from
everybody.
me and my dog.
Yeah. I was hoping somebody would go, and it's goodbye from them. Good night.
Do you want me to do that? Do you wanna take two and do that?
And it's good night from me.
Oh no! And it's good night from them.
Yeah, we're done.